She only had to pretend to be the millionaire's wife for 7 days, but destiny had other plans. Before the story begins, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I really want to know how far these stories are reaching. And if you love emotional love stories full of twists and unforgettable endings, subscribe to the channel. That helps me keep creating and makes this project grow more and more. Let's go on this journey together. It was late afternoon in Savannah, and the humid southern heat weighed down the peeling walls of the small apartment where Sofia Cruz lived with her younger sister Camilla. The ceiling fan creaked as if it were about to fall, but it was all they had to endure the suffocating summer. The smell of burnt rice filled the kitchen, and the old radio announced yet another cut in public benefits. Anna rushed to turn off the stove, frustrated. She was 28, with amber-brown eyes that seemed to hold too many secrets for such a short life. Dark, straight hair she always wore down for lack of time or money for hairstyles. Her body was naturally attractive, but nothing in her life was aimed at seduction. She lived with the dignity of someone who had learned to fight early. She worked as a cleaner at a luxury resort and babysat in the evenings to keep her sister out of the statistics. That afternoon, a black luxury car pulled up in front of the modest building. From the back seat stepped out a man with an impeccable appearance, tailored navy blue suit, polished shoes, perfectly styled black hair. Alexander Bennett. Tall, with a firm posture and a face marked by a trace of calculated coldness. His blue-gray eyes observed everything with detachment, as if each thing around him were part of a calculation. He wasn't one to show up unannounced, especially not in that neighborhood. Anna came downstairs with soap still on her feet and an apron tied around her waist. When she saw him, she frowned, immediately on alert. "Mr. Bennett, what are you doing here?" Alex slowly took off his sunglasses. His tone was dry, almost impersonal. "We need to talk. It's urgent." Camilla, her 14-year-old sister, appeared at the door, startled. Anna signaled for her to go inside and lock the porch gate before facing the man who, until yesterday, only existed in the hotel corridors, where she cleaned offices, in a rush to avoid being seen. "I don't usually mix work with my personal life, Mr. Bennett. Please be direct." Alex took a deep breath. He didn't like losing control, and even less depending on someone. But this was an emergency. His family empire was on the verge of collapse, thanks to a scandal involving his name and a contested inheritance. "I'll be direct. I need you to pretend to be my wife for 7 days. A trip, an important event for my family's image and business. In return, I'll pay enough to solve all your problems." Anna let out a bitter laugh. "Is this a joke? What makes you think I'd agree to something this absurd? Because I know your sister is about to be expelled from school due to unpaid fees, and that you're 3 months behind on rent. I know your situation." Anna felt her face burn. It was as if her misfortunes had been laid on the table like chips in a game she never wanted to play. "You investigated my life." Alex didn't answer. He simply held out an envelope with a contract. In it, clear clauses, 7 days. No intimate contact, just appearances, and an amount of money Anna had never imagined seeing. "It's just pretending, smiling for the cameras, pretending to love me. After that, you'll never have to see me again." She held the envelope with trembling hands. She thought of her sister, of the electric bill, of the eviction notice taped to the fridge. Then she looked into his eyes. "You have no idea what you're asking, but if this is what will save me, I accept, for 7 days." Alex nodded, showing no emotion. "We start tomorrow. Get ready to enter a world where even lies have to look perfect." As he walked away, Anna slowly closed the door. She leaned her forehead against the wood and for the first time in a long while let a tear fall. not out of sadness, but for everything that agreement represented, the end of the last part of herself that was still free. And so began the lie that would change everything. Anna was still standing by the closed door, the envelope in her hands and her heart racing. The warm southern night breeze came through the kitchen window, but the air felt heavy, thick, hard to breathe. In the living room, Camilla hummed an old song softly as she did her homework on the floor, lying on her stomach with a nearly blunt pencil and notebooks far too worn for such a dreamy girl. Anna approached her sister, sat beside her on the faded rug, and gently ran her hand through the girl's brown hair. "Camilla, if you had the chance to change everything for a week, even if it was something weird, would you do it?" Camilla looked up, confused. "Like a trip? A game?" Anna forced a smile. "Something like that. If it was to help us, I'd do it. Even if it was just pretending, I'd do it." Anna held her sister's hand and stayed silent. She knew that week wouldn't be a game. It would be a test, a dive into a world that didn't want her around. But it was either that or watch Camilla lose her spot at school and the two of them be evicted in the middle of summer. The next morning, Anna woke up before sunrise. She took a shower without rushing, something rare, and picked out the most presentable outfit she had. A simple white blouse, clean jeans, and worn-out flats. She walked to the meeting point Alex had indicated, in front of the old white stone hotel, a building with imposing columns and a neo-classical facade that looked more like a monument than a functional place. There, standing next to a luxurious black car, Alex was waiting. He wore sunglasses and an even more serious expression than the day before. The silver watch on his wrist reflected the rising sun. "Are you ready?" he asked, without even looking directly at her. Anna answered, firmly but without arrogance, "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for my sister, and I hope you hold up your end." Alex nodded. "You'll have everything I promised, but from now on, every move you make will be watched. Savannah's elite doesn't forgive slip-ups. One mistake, and everything falls apart." "I've been through worse than disapproving looks," she said, getting into the car without waiting for him to open the door. During the ride, Alex handed her a folder with basic information, the couple's story, important dates, fabricated memories. Photos of the two, fake but convincing. "Our first meeting was in Charleston. You were working at a charity event, and I fell in love with your simplicity. 3 months later, I proposed to you on the terrace of Bennett House." Anna flipped through the pages, reading everything carefully. It was strange to see a life created from nothing, a life where she was loved, wanted, admired, so different from her reality. "Are you always like this, calculated?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the paper. "When you have a name to protect, there's no room for improvisation." The car passed through the gates of the Bennett estate, a property surrounded by century-old trees and geometric gardens. Inside, lined-up staff, marble staircases, crystal chandeliers, everything immaculate, everything silently threatening. A woman came down the stairs with elegant steps and a piercing gaze. It was Margaret Bennett, Alex's mother. Impeccable in a cream dress and a pearl necklace, she looked at Anna as if assessing an outdated piece of clothing. "So this is Anna Sofia," Alex confirmed with a nod. "She is my wife, Mother, and she will be with us during the Founders' Ball. I expect everyone to treat her with the proper respect." Margaret didn't respond immediately. She walked over to Anna, observing her from head to toe. The silence was painful. "I hope you're up to the task, because in this world, dear, a bad impression can cost more than money." Anna held her posture. "I came prepared to smile, but not to bow." The response left the matriarch silent, and for a brief second, one corner of Alex's mouth lifted, almost imperceptibly. That night, Anna stayed in one of the guest rooms in the east wing of the mansion. The view overlooked a garden lit by small lanterns, and the silence was so absolute she could barely sleep. Holding the contract in her hands and looking at the expensive dress left hanging for her in the closet, Anna whispered to herself, "What if I don't come out of this the same as I went in?" But what she didn't know was that she had already begun to change, and that this world, cruel and calculated as it was also about to be shaken by the presence of someone who was never meant to be there. The dress hanging in the closet was still there when Anna woke up, as if the previous night had been a strange dream, a poorly rehearsed preview of a life that wasn't hers. The fabric fell perfectly, deep navy blue, with subtle gold details on the straps and an elegant neckline. It was the kind of clothing she would never have dared even to touch, let alone wear. But that night, there was no room for hesitation. She was, officially, Alexander Bennett's wife. With her hair styled by an employee who avoided eye contact, professional makeup, and imported perfume, Anna barely recognized her own reflection. In the mirror, she looked like someone else, but inside, she still felt the same knot in her stomach, the same tightness in her chest as someone walking through a minefield. The mansion's dining hall was even more imposing at night. Crystal chandeliers cast golden reflections over a long table, covered in pristine white linen, fine glasses and silverware that looked more like museum relics. Around it, Savannah's high society figures took their seats with elegant gestures and calculated smiles. Men in dark suits and women in formal gowns whispered among themselves as if the air were thick with secrets and judgment. Alexander stood beside her, as promised. In a dark grey suit and perfectly slicked back hair, he kept a calm expression, though his eyes watched Anna's every move closely. He gently touched the small of her back, guiding her to the seat reserved for Mrs. Bennett. "Remember," he murmured, "just smile and pretend you're used to all this." Anna sat down with a firm posture, trying to ignore the curious glances and smiles that felt more like knives. Across from her, a blonde woman with her hair in a tight bun stared at her like a bug out of place in nobility's garden. It was Evelyn Harrington, Alex's ex-fiancée and the daughter of a major family investor. "So you're the new Mrs. Bennett?" Evelyn asked with poisonous softness. "How charming. No one knew Alex had gotten married so discreetly." Anna smiled, unflinching. "Some precious things don't need to be announced. They just happen." Alex glanced at her, surprised by how naturally she responded. Evelyn bit her lip, uncomfortable, but smiled with superiority before turning away. Margaret Bennett entered the hall with soft yet steel-like steps. Her deep burgundy dress contrasted with the pearl necklace she wore like armor. She didn't say a word to her daughter-in-law during dinner, but watched every gesture, every phrase, every bite, like someone evaluating a disguised enemy. Dinner continued amid rehearsed laughter and speeches about tradition and prestige. Anna pretended to listen, but her whole body vibrated with tension. Every gesture had to be calculated, every word measured, a toast raised at the wrong moment, and everything could fall apart. At one point, Alex surprised her by leaning toward her with an unexpected question. "Are you okay?" She blinked, momentarily caught off guard. There was something in his voice. It wasn't cold. It was genuine concern. "I'm pretending I am. And you?" Alex hesitated for a split second before answering. "I'm trying to remember why none of this ever mattered to me until now." His words hung in the air. Anna looked away, pretending she hadn't felt the impact. But she had. Hours later, back in her room, Anna took off her earrings with trembling hands. The silence of the mansion felt heavier that night. Dinner was over, but the game had only just begun, and she knew that the closer she got to the truth behind those crystal smiles, the riskier everything would become. She sat on the edge of the bed and murmured to herself, staring at the dress on the armchair. Maybe pretending is harder than I thought. But outside, hidden in the dark hallway, Alex was still there. He didn't knock. He just listened. And for the first time, he began to fear that this lie might hurt more than any truth. The next morning dawned with a fine mist, covering the banks of the Savannah River like a silent veil. The air was humid and carried a faint scent of jasmine. Ina, dressed in a light beige coat and a thin scarf around her neck, walked beside Alexander in a steady rhythm, just as they had rehearsed. It was part of the couple script to convince the local press that they were living a discreet but genuine love story. He was impeccable as always, light grey wool suit, sunglasses, perfectly styled hair. But there was something in his eyes, something hidden behind the layers of control, that was starting to crack. "Why the river?" Anna asked, breaking the silence between them. Alex hesitated for a moment. Then he replied without looking at her. "My brother used to come here. It was his favorite place when he wanted to disappear from the world." Anna turned her face slowly, surprised by the answer. There was an opening there, a crack in the facade. "You had a brother?" Alex nodded. "Liam, 5 years younger, spontaneous, light-hearted, everything I never was. What happened to him?" The silence that followed hurt more than any direct answer. Alex walked to the edge of the wooden dock and rested his hands on the old railing, staring at the shimmering reflection in the water. "He died 2 years ago, officially, a boating accident, but no one could really explain it. Not me, not my mother. He went out sailing alone and never came back." Anna felt a lump in her throat. The wind blew stronger and she pulled, her coat tighter around her. For a moment, she forgot they were pretending. The pain in Alex's eyes was too real. "And you've been carrying that alone ever since?" Alex finally looked at her. No arrogance, no mask. "I carry the family name. I carry the business. And now, I carry a lie by your side." Anna swallowed hard. She wanted to say he didn't have to carry it all alone. She wanted to say she understood what it was like to lose someone, even if not in the same way. But she remained silent, because at that moment, their pain met in a shared space that no performance could replicate. Later that day, Alex followed Anna without being seen. She had asked for a break to visit her sister, but veered off course. Curious, he followed in a discreet car. He saw her park in a modest neighborhood with worn-out wooden houses, overgrown lawns, and leaning utility poles. There, Anna opened the trunk of an old car and pulled out bags of groceries. She went door to door delivering food, listening to stories, hugging people naturally. Children ran to her, laughing. An elderly woman held her face in her hands and said something Alex couldn't hear, but Anna's emotional smile said it all. He stood there watching without being seen. That woman he was pretending to be married to was more real than any of the investors surrounding him every day. And at that moment, he felt small in front of her, small and moved. That night, back at the mansion, the two met on the back porch. Anna held a mug of tea, dressed in a simple sweatshirt, a rarity in that environment of expensive dresses. "You followed me today," she said, without turning around. Alex sighed. "I wanted to know who you were, without the ball gowns." Anna gave a slight smile, without irony. "And what did you find out?" "That maybe I'm on the wrong side of the story." She looked at him, and for a moment, they just stood there, breathing the same silence. But the time they had spent together, the real time, was beginning to speak louder than the lie they were upholding. And Alex, even without admitting it, began to fear that 7 days wouldn't be enough to push away what was starting to grow between them. That night carried an air of tension disguised in luxury. The gala dinner honoring the Bennett groups. Investors filled the main hall of Savannah's most exclusive club. Imposing white columns, flickering candles in golden candelabras, and a string quartet filling the silence with a soft melody. Everything was refined to the point where no emotion could seem genuine. Anna looked stunning in a deep burgundy dress, her hair pulled back in a low bun that made her face even more expressive. But inside, she felt like a foreign body in that cold machine. She knew she didn't belong in that world, and that every smile she received hid judgment. Alexander, as always, maintained impeccable composure. He was the perfect host, polite, elegant, attentive. But his eyes sought her with every movement, as if his body no longer obeyed the disguise they wore. It was at the moment they were surrounded by some of the oldest guests in a seemingly cordial conversation circle that Evelyn Harrington, Alex's ex-fiancée, decided to strike. Dressed in a pearly tone with a metallic shimmer that reflected the lights of the ballroom, Evelyn smiled with a venomous softness as she held a glass of champagne. "They say true love appears when we least expect it. Isn't that right, Anna? Sofia?" She paused with feigned innocence. "How was it again that you and Alex met? Oh yes, while you were cleaning the carpet in the presidential suite, right?" Some guests chuckled softly. Others just looked away. Anna kept her head, held high, but the blow hurt. "It's funny," Evelyn continued, "how certain encounters can change the course of everything. I imagine things got a lot easier for you after that." Before Anna could respond, Alex's firm voice echoed clearly. "That's enough, Evelyn." The ex-fiancé stopped, surprised. Everyone went silent. Alex stepped forward, facing the circle of guests with coldness. "You might find it amusing to play with words, but I won't tolerate any more insinuations about my wife. She has more dignity and courage than many gathered here tonight." Anna looked at him, unsure if she was surprised or moved. Evelyn forced a fake smile and raised her glass in a forced toast. "Of course. It was just a joke. We're so sensitive these days." The rest of the night passed in a blur for Anna. Her blood was still pounding in her ears. She maintained the required smile, but every minute there felt suffocating. When the event ended, she hurried to the side garden of the club, distancing herself from the crowd. Alex followed her. "Anna, wait!" She turned around, her face lit only by the soft garden lights. Her eyes were burning. "You didn't have to defend me. I'm used to being seen as a mistake." "It wasn't for you, it was for me," he said, with unexpected honesty. "Hearing that bothered me more than I thought it would." Anna stepped toward him, anger mixed with something deeper. "It bothered you because it forced you to really look at me. And you know what you saw? Someone you would never have chosen if you could avoid it." He stayed silent, but his eyes said everything. In an impulsive gesture, she placed her hand on his chest. "Say this is still just a role. Say that nothing happening here is real." Alex gently held her wrists, took a deep breath, and then kissed her. The kiss was firm, urgent, filled with everything they had both avoided until then. But at the same time, there was a tenderness that scared them. For a few seconds, it was as if the entire world had disappeared. When they pulled away, he was still holding her face with both hands. "This shouldn't have happened." "But it did," she replied, her voice low and trembling. Alex looked away, took a step back. "I can't get involved with someone like you." Anna stood still. That wasn't a rejection. It was a wound. And coming from him, the man who had just kissed her, it was even crueler. "I understand," she said, holding back tears. "The role you gave me has an end, and it's coming." She turned and walked toward the exit without looking back. Alex remained there, frozen, as if caught between what he felt and what he didn't know how to accept. And the silence of that night, so beautiful and clean, now weighed over them like a sentence no one was ready to serve. The night following the kiss had been a void. Anna had slept little, tossing and turning in the east wing room of the mansion. The taste of the kiss still lingered, mixed with the bitterness of the words that came after. "I can't get involved with someone like you." It echoed like a sentence. Still, there was something stronger than the hurt, a growing unrest. Something about Alex didn't add up. It wasn't just pride, it was control, cold, strategic. The next day, the mansion was strangely empty. According to the staff, Alex had left early. Anna decided to walk around the house, trying to shake off the thoughts suffocating her. Her steps led her to his office. The door was slightly ajar. She hesitated, but entered. The room was elegant and masculine, dark wood shelves filled with books and color-coded folders. An old clock marked time with solemn, steady ticks. On the oak desk, papers stacked with precise alignment. That was when Anna noticed a beige folder with her name handwritten in the upper corner. Short and to the point, A.S. Cruz. Her heart raced. With trembling fingers, she opened the folder. Inside were copies of personal documents, her sister's medical records, school history, overdue lease contract, bank report, even a photograph of her leaving the municipal hospital 2 weeks before the deal with Alex. Anna slowly sat down, as if her legs could no longer bear the weight of the revelation. He knew, from the beginning, he knew about her financial situation, her sister's health, the eviction risk. It wasn't a random encounter, it wasn't empathy. He had chosen her like someone choosing a chess piece, because he knew she couldn't say no. The door opened behind her. Alex walked in, taking off his jacket and stopping mid-motion when he saw her there, holding the folder. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice tense. Anna stood up, eyes full of tears, holding the dossier against her chest. "You used me." "Anna, it's not what it looks like," she interrupted him. "You knew everything, every detail of my life. And still, you had the nerve to offer me a contract as if it were a favor. You pretended I was the only option. You placed me here as part of a game, and still had the audacity to kiss me." Alex took a deep breath, but his expression hardened. "It was a contract. You knew that from the beginning. Nothing has changed." "Hasn't it? Because for me, everything changed," Anna shouted, her voice breaking. "I believed there was something in you that slipped through the coldness, something real. But now I see you never took off the mask, not even for a second." He moved closer, but she stepped back. "Don't you dare apologize if it's not sincere." Alex remained still. He said nothing. Anna felt the silence like a slap. "So that's it then? You'd rather hide behind the contract than admit you hurt me on purpose?" "I did what was necessary," he replied, emotionless. "There's no room for feelings when my family's name is at stake." She stood in silence for a moment. Then she murmured, her eyes locked on his. "You don't understand. I could accept that all of this was pretend, but not that you planned my pain." She turned and walked out, with firm steps, holding back tears as if holding back a scream. Behind her, Alex stood in the middle of the office, alone, with the folder open on the desk and a conscience pounding. On the sidewalk in front of the mansion, Anna looked at the cloudy sky and inhaled Savannah's heavy air. The designer dress she wore felt like it didn't belong to her body. The mansion, the columns, the hallways, all of it now felt poisonous. She called for a rideshare. She didn't look back. And at that moment, something inside her broke completely. But what she didn't know yet was that the pain she felt would become the strength she would use to rise again. Anna's phone began vibrating non-stop the next morning. It was as if the whole world was trying to reach her at once. Notifications popped up endlessly, unread messages, calls from unknown numbers, social media alerts. She hesitated before unlocking the screen. But when she did, it felt like the ground disappeared beneath her. There, featured in a video already racking up hundreds of thousands of views, was her in the club's garden, being kissed by Alexander Bennett. The angle was too perfect to be accidental. Someone had recorded it with a clear intent to expose. The title of the viral video was cruel: "Humble babysitter seduces millionaire at Southern elite event." The comments poured in. Of course, she climbed the ladder the easy way. These gold diggers come out of nowhere and ruin everything. Has anyone looked into this woman's past? Shame on the Bennett family. Anna dropped the phone on the bed and held her head in her hands. She was in the small rented room back in the suburbs where she had taken refuge after leaving the mansion. Her chest tightened, her breathing faltered. Within minutes, social media had turned her life into a spectacle of hate. Camilla walked into the room, pale, eyes wide. She held her phone and was shaking. "Anna, they're talking about you at school. They're saying that you tricked a rich man, that you're involved in scandals." Anna knelt down and held her sister's face. "None of it is true. It was a mistake, a setup." But in that world driven by appearances, the truth didn't matter. Only the story that got more clicks. That same day, Anna was called into the manager's office at the resort where she worked as a cleaner. The manager couldn't look her in the eye for long. He handed her a printed letter with just a few words. "Considering the public exposure and to preserve the company's image, your employment is hereby terminated." On the way back, people recognized her. Some pointed, others whispered. Anna walked with hunched shoulders, trying to keep her head high, but she felt as if she were naked before a court with no judges, only executioners. And the worst was yet to come. 2 days later, she received a notice from Child Protective Services. An anonymous report questioned her ability to maintain temporary custody of Camilla, citing emotional instability and inappropriate exposure of the minor. Anna lost her footing. "They want to take you from me," she told her sister, struggling not to cry. "I'm not going anywhere," Camilla replied, eyes full of tears. "You're all I have, Anna." But amid the storm, Alex didn't show up. No message, no phone call, no public statement. The contract between them had ended, and with it, any trace of the protection he once promised vanished. She understood then the true meaning of being alone. Anna spent the night sitting on the porch of the small wooden house, staring at the dark sky, listening to the sound of crickets. Every notification that lit up her phone was ignored. The world seemed to be falling apart around her. But inside, a new kind of strength began to grow. It wasn't the strength of pride, it was the strength of survival. "They want me to give up," she whispered to herself, "but they won't succeed." And while the world called her an opportunist, she quietly began to plan what no one expected: a fresh start. The city of Savannah buzzed with preparations for the traditional Founders' Ball, the most important event on the local elite's social calendar. That night, historic Whitestone Hall glowed with golden lights, luxurious floral arrangements and classical music filling the air. It was the kind of celebration where everything was choreographed to appear perfect. But no one there knew that. Among silk dresses and crystal glasses, a truth was about to explode. Alexander Bennett stood in the center of the ballroom, surrounded by investors, old family friends, and sycophants in formal wear. But despite the polite smile on his face, his eyes were searching for something, or rather someone. It had been weeks since he'd seen Anna. Since the scandal, she had disappeared. No phone call, no explanation, just silence, the kind of silence that eats away more than any word. When the host announced the official opening of the ball, everyone turned toward the grand staircase. And then the footsteps echoed. Anna appeared at the top of the staircase, wearing a navy blue gown with a sober cut. No flash, but elegant and poised. Her hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. There were no jewels, no excessive makeup, just the dignity of someone who no longer owed anything to anyone. A murmur swept through the ballroom. Alex froze. Anna descended the steps slowly, as someone who knows her own worth. And each step was a silent scream against the humiliation. She had endured. She wasn't there for revenge. She was there to confront. Margaret Bennett, upon seeing her, gripped her champagne glass so tightly it cracked. Evelyn Harrington turned with a frozen smile, murmuring something into her mother's ear. But then, something unexpected happened. A middle-aged woman with elegant grey hair and firm posture emerged from the corner of the room. It was Victoria Langdon, former partner of the Bennett family and an old friend of Alexander. With a microphone in hand, she asked to speak. "Good evening," she said, her voice clear. "Before this ball continues, I think it's time for some clarity." The room fell silent. Alex frowned. A few weeks ago, an intimate video was leaked involving Alexander Bennett and Sofia Cruz. That leak was used to destroy the image of an honorable woman and to protect the interests of those who never accepted her presence. She slowly turned her gaze toward Evelyn, who went pale. "I was the first to receive the video, and I know exactly where it came from. Evelyn Harrington sent it to me, trying to manipulate the votes of the Bennett Group board and pressure Alex to cut all ties with Anna. And it worked." Alex was in shock. Evelyn tried to speak, but no sound came out. Margaret looked away, embarrassed. Victoria continued, "And the saddest part is that you, Alex, not only believed it, but also turned your back on her when she needed you the most." She handed back the microphone. Now everyone was looking at Alex, not as the untouchable heir, but as the man who had failed. He walked over to Anna, his eyes full of tears. "Anna, I didn't know, I swear. I never imagined that." She interrupted him firmly, but without raising her voice. "You didn't have to know everything, Alex. You just had to be on my side." "I was a coward," he said, his voice breaking, "and I regret it." Anna looked at him. Her gaze was calm but firm. She wasn't there for revenge. She was there to be free. "You asked me to pretend to be your wife, and I did. We faked smiles, stories, dinners. But a real husband defends the woman he loves, even when the whole world condemns her, and you left me alone." Her words cut through Alex like a blade. He tried to touch her, but she stepped back. "I'm not your wife, Alex, and you never defended me like a man in love would." The entire ballroom watched in silence, as if no one dared to breathe. Anna turned and walked toward the exit with firm steps. The applause started quietly from the back of the room, discreet but sincere, and as everyone watched the woman who dared to defy an empire, Alex stood there alone among the ruins of a lie he helped build. Time passed, but the scars didn't disappear. They simply learned to hurt in silence. 3 months after the Founders' Ball, Sofia Cruz walked through the streets of a modest Savannah neighborhood with steady steps and a mature look. She wore jeans, a white t-shirt, and a vest with the embroidered logo of Southern Roots, the NGO, where she now worked as a coordinator, supporting women affected by psychological and social abuse. There were no more camera flashes, no expensive dresses, no gala invitations, only real faces, wounded, seeking what she herself had to learn to build from scratch: dignity. Every morning, Anna made coffee for the group and offered sincere hugs to those who arrived with downcast eyes and weary souls. It was there, within those light yellow-painted walls, with motivational posters and the smell of fresh bread in the air, that she had rediscovered her purpose. She no longer needed to pretend to be strong. She was strong. Camilla, now 15, was studying full-time thanks to a scholarship she had earned through hard work. Anna waited for her every day with a smile, even after long hours of listening to difficult stories. At the end of each day, she returned home tired, but at peace. but that peace would soon be tested. One afternoon, as she was closing the community center door, Anna saw a car slowly parking across the street. It was simple, silver, unremarkable, and when the door opened, what she saw made her freeze. Alexander Bennett. There were no bodyguards, no designer watch, no tailored suit. Just a regular man in dark jeans, a wrinkled dress shirt, and eyes that seemed lighter now that they were free of arrogance. He walked slowly toward her, as if carrying the weight of many silences. "Anna," he said, stopping a few steps away. "Can I talk to you?" She held the folder against her chest, the same way she did when she felt exposed, but she didn't look away. "What are you doing here?" "I came because I needed to look you in the eyes. No press, no contracts, no lies." Anna took a deep breath. He looked different. His gaze was softer, his face more human, but her heart still carried the echo of pain. "I'm not interested in more regrets, Alex." "I know," he replied. "I lost everything. My image, my influence on the board, my position. But what hurt the most was losing you." She watched him in silence, waiting for more, but without rushing. "I spent my whole life trying to control everything, pretending love was weakness. You were the first person who saw me without the masks, and even then, I left you alone." "You didn't leave me," Anna said firmly. "You pushed me away. You threw me aside the moment your reputation spoke louder than your conscience." Alex lowered his head, defeated. "If I could go back." "But you can't," she interrupted softly. "And even if you could, I don't trust you anymore." The silence between them was thick, almost tangible. He nodded, his eyes full of pain. "I understand. I just needed to hear it from you. Not for me, for you." Alex turned and walked back to the car, but before getting in, he looked back one last time over his shoulder. "If one day I can do something, anything, to help fix what I destroyed, let me know." He got into the car and drove off without a horn, without haste. Anna stood still for long seconds. She didn't cry, she didn't smile, she just felt, and in that raw sensation, she recognized something valuable. For the first time, she had the choice, and she chose to move forward. But something about that goodbye didn't feel final. Rain fell lightly against the window pane when Anna received the call. She was at the community center, organizing donations, when her phone rang with the number from the local hospital. For a moment, her heart froze. On the other end of the line, the nurse explained calmly that Camilla had suffered a serious fall during a school activity, a leg fracture, possible ligament damage, urgent surgery, high costs, immediate authorization. Anna rushed to the hospital without thinking. When she arrived, Camilla gave her a weak smile, trying to be strong. "I'm okay, it was just a silly fall," she said, her voice faint. But Anna knew it wasn't just that. The doctor explained the procedure professionally. The problem was the cost. Even with public support, the quick surgery required specialists, anesthesia, hospitalization, and a prosthetic. An amount Anna didn't have. Not at that moment, not with donations, not with loans. She walked out of the waiting room, feeling like the world was spinning. By late afternoon, when she returned to the reception to try to renegotiate, the hospital staff member called her over. "The surgery bill has already been paid. Someone paid in full. Name withheld." Anna froze. "What do you mean, withheld?" "Private donation. They didn't authorize disclosure, but everything's settled. Your sister will be operated on today." Hours later, sitting beside the hospital bed, holding Camilla's hand already under anesthesia, Anna felt gratitude and confusion mix. One name echoed in her mind. It could only be him. And the next day, with her heart restless, she took a bus to the old Bennett family office, now run by a different board, but Alex still kept a small, unmarked room in the back. When she entered, he was alone, standing, organizing boxes of documents. There was no luxury, just a simple desk, natural, light and piles of papers. His eyes lit up when he saw her, but he said nothing. He just waited. "It was you," Anna said firmly. "You paid for the surgery." Alex dropped the papers and took a deep breath. "Yes, it was me." "Why? Out of guilt? Out of remorse?" He stepped closer, slowly, and his voice came out with a serenity that almost hurt. "Because I can't. Not care. Because when I found out what happened, it felt like losing everything all over again, and I couldn't let that happen." Anna looked into his eyes, searching for lies, for masks, but found none. There was only truth there, raw, unshielded. "You should have let me handle it on my own." "You always handle everything on your own," he replied. "But maybe you don't have to anymore." She swallowed hard, her throat tightened, her emotions tangled. "I don't know if I can trust you again." "I'm not here to ask for that," he said sincerely. "Not now. I just want you to know, I don't do anything out of pride anymore. I'm not here to control or fix. I just want to love, even if you never take me back." The words hung in the air like an old confession freed too late. Anna stood in silence, feeling the weight of that surrender. "Do you still love me?" she asked, unable to hide the tremble in her voice. "More than I've ever loved anything in my life." She closed her eyes for a moment. There was pain, yes, but there was also something stronger. The memory of everything they had lived, what they had faced, and what they could become if time allowed. "Maybe one day," she whispered, almost like a promise. "But for now, I need to keep going alone, for me and for her." Alex nodded, not trying to convince her, because his love now had learned to wait. And when she walked out of the room, he smiled for the first time in a long while. A small smile, bittersweet, but real. The spring breeze blew gently over the grass at Savannah's Central Park, where white tents stood for another charity event organized by the Southern Roots NGO. The sky was clear, the sun gently golden, and the air was filled with cheerful voices, acoustic music, and the smell of popcorn and fresh flowers. Sofia walked among the booths with a calm smile, giving directions, checking details with her clipboard in hand. Her hair fell loose over her shoulders, and she wore a simple white shirt with the NGO logo on her chest. A year had passed since. She told Alex she needed time, and she had used it well. Camilla, now 16, laughed with other volunteers near the giveaway booth. The surgery had been a success, and she walked confidently again. More than that, she was blooming with freedom. Anna, in turn, had grown stronger, not just as a woman, but as someone who had found purpose in the middle of chaos. She was checking the food booth when she heard a familiar voice, low, almost hesitant. "Need more help with the boxes?" She turned slowly, and there he was, Alexander Bennett, different from the image the world knew, in simple jeans, a dark blue t-shirt with a volunteer badge hanging from his neck, and a worn-out cap. He was holding 2 boxes of donations with a shy smile. Anna took a second to react, not out of surprise, but because she hadn't expected to feel such calm upon seeing him. Her heart didn't race. It simply warmed slowly. "You signed up as a volunteer?" she asked. 3 weeks ago, he replied. "Use my middle name so I wouldn't attract attention. I thought maybe you'd let me." "And what if I told you that you didn't need to do this?" Alex placed the boxes on the table and wiped his hands on his jeans. "I didn't do it to earn forgiveness. I did it because I needed to serve a cause that wasn't my own. For the first time." She looked at him in silence. His features were calmer, his eyes less rushed. He was the same man, but different in essence. "You seem lighter," she said. "Not having anything to hide helps a lot," he replied with a soft smile. She pulled up a folding chair beside the tent and nodded. "Sit for a bit. We've got decent coffee, if you still like it strong and bitter." He sat down, accepted the cup she handed him. They stayed there for a few minutes, watching the movement around them, without saying much, without rushing. After a while, Alex spoke. "I thought about you every day, but I understood I couldn't come back with just words. I had to become a new version of myself to be worthy of staying." Ana looked at him with calm but intense eyes. "I thought about you too, not with anger but with pain. Because what hurt me wasn't what you did, it was what you didn't do when I needed you most." Alex nodded humbly. "And I'll never forgive myself for that, but I'm here, not to erase the past, just to be part of your present, if you'll let me." She gave a small smile without making promises. "I haven't forgotten, but I forgave." He looked at her in surprise, as if receiving an unexpected gift. "Why?" "Because I learned that real love doesn't demand perfection. It demands respect, regret, growth, and you changed." The silence between them now was light, and it carried something that hadn't existed before: peace. In the distance, children ran, soft music played, and life went on in its simple rhythm. Ana stood up and held out her hand to him. "There are more boxes in the truck, come on." Alex took her hand and stood up, and in that simple gesture, the two finally walked together. No rush, no pretending, for the first time, for real. And on that sunny spring afternoon, it was clear that sometimes pretending for 7 days can reveal more truths than a lifetime of convenience. So, what did you think of this story? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments. I really want to know how much this journey moved you. If you liked it, give the video a like, share it with someone who also loves intense stories like this, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters. And before you go, I've carefully selected another emotional story that will touch your heart even deeper. Click it and continue with me on this journey, full of love, twists, and overcoming.